Today I am exploring my new camera equipment. I actually have a variety of things that I have bought. Most of them are actually fairly inexpensive except for my new camera. I did test it out last week, but I wanted to test out some of the accessories that I got with it as well and just see how all this stuff works together. Some of these features, like the gimbal that I am talking to you on now, I've actually had for a few months and it's been really fantastic. It allows me to move around like this and it tracks me, it keeps me in frame, and it also allows me to take selfie shots using the good cameras on the back of the phone and not just using the selfie camera on the front screen. That really improves the image quality, I think. It looks a whole lot better than what I had before anyways. The other thing you may have noticed that I bought is I do have a new lapel mic that was a little bit expensive, but I keep on trying to find a lapel mic that actually works. This has actually been a multi-year process, and I finally just decided to break down and buy something that was decent. And so that's what I'm talking to you on now. It's a DJI mic set. Actually, a lot of my new equipment is from DJI because they seem to really understand how content creators actually use their equipment. And it all works pretty seamlessly with all my mobile devices, and that's what I film and edit on. So I really like DJI's stuff, and using all of their things, it really does improve my workflow, makes things a lot simpler, a lot faster to edit, a lot faster to transfer files, and everything like that. So one of the things that I've had for years is this lovely tripod. It's just a cheap Amazon Basics tripod, but it's actually worked pretty well. So when I'm filming in a set location, usually my apartment, I've used it out in the field a little bit, but I don't actually use this big tripod as much because it's kind of more cumbersome to carry around and set up. However, around my apartment, I used it in my bus quite a bit. I think I used this way back when I was making tons of piano videos as well. Having that tripod is really a game changer, and it obviously allows you to mount a camera in a really good location, really the best location possible for whatever you're doing. So if I have time to set it up and space to bring it around, I definitely use that big tripod as much as possible because it just makes life so much easier. So now let's go through some of my other purchases that I made over the years. The first piece of equipment that I bought for making YouTube videos was a very long time ago. This was back when I was teaching and performing quite a bit, and I needed something that I could use to live stream and record performances, things like that. So I ended up getting this Movo handheld rig, and this is actually what I used for years, and it works pretty well. All of this comes apart, and so you can like take off the handle, you can remove the mic or the light, you can take off this entire bar right here, so you just have the holder. So if you ever want to upgrade parts of it, it actually works really, really well. It worked really well when it was just sitting on a tripod, but when it came to actually filming outside and things like that, I never found it worked that well. You can see this has a giant dead cat on it. It also has a foam pop filter inside of this dead cat, and this is the stereo mic right here. And it's a pretty decent quality stereo mic, but the thing is, when I bought this, I had it, I think, in an iPhone 11 maybe, and since then, iPhones have come a long ways. After I got my iPhone 13 Pro, I found that the microphone in that is nearly as good as this mic, and so I ended up not using this as much after I got my new iPhone. The other thing is this light, you can turn it on, and it's a very harsh white light, and so I ended up replacing that. I also broke it at some point. I've fixed it since then, but I replaced it with this much better light. It's kind of in a soft box, I think is what they call, but it has an adjustable brightness. You can adjust the warmth of the light, and this is a fantastic device. I used this a lot when I was recording in my car, and I needed a little bit of extra light. But anyways, that entire kit fit conveniently in this nice little carrying case. I have extra batteries in here for my microphone, and that was something that was always a problem, especially when I was live streaming. The battery in the microphone actually would last a really long time. So every once in a while, like halfway through the live stream, just the sound would cut out completely because the mic was dead. And again, that was another reason why I stopped using that mic as much. But I actually still use the mic periodically. I use components of that rig every once in a while, but with my gimbal and just the increase in quality of the iPhone, I just don't use that equipment quite as much as I used to. So I want to talk a little bit about the camera that I just sold, actually, before I move on to the next piece of equipment. And so I actually just sold a Sony ZV-1, and it's a very popular vlogging camera. You see a lot of people using it. I had the original version, which I bought used before I got this phone, and I used it kind of off and on after I got this phone even, because it does do something better than the iPhone, but a lot of things it actually does worse. And so that's ended up being the reason why I sold it. So back when I bought the Sony ZV-1, I think I had an iPhone 11. The iPhones back then just didn't really have that amazing of a picture. I mean, it worked. If you look at a lot of my old videos, they were shot on that old iPhone 11. So I really needed to update the quality to get it at least YouTube quality. And that Sony ZV-1 really changed the way I filmed quite a bit. One of the big things that I did a lot back then and even do now is I shoot a lot in low light settings. And so for that, the Sony ZV-1 was so much better than my phone, my iPhone, the old ones, and even my newer iPhone 13 Pro that I have now didn't quite do low light settings as well as that Sony ZV-1. In some ways the picture quality was better, in some ways it was worse than my new iPhone. It was definitely better than the old iPhones, but ever since the iPhone 13 Pro came out and I was basically sent a free one by Verizon, I found that I ended up resorting to my iPhone a lot more because the picture quality was basically in the same ballpark. The audio was actually probably a little bit better. The microphone on my new iPhone was a little bit better, and the Sony ZV-1 has several problems. And of course they have recently updated the Sony ZV-1. They have come out with different models as well that are a little bit better for vlogging maybe. But I had the original one, and the biggest problem with it was the image stabilization. It was atrocious, and it made a lot of my footage completely unusable. I probably could only use maybe half of the footage if I was using it handheld. And part of the problem with image stabilization was also the lens on the camera itself. It wasn't as wide of an angle as you would really want. So I ended up actually buying this little tripod to hold the camera a little bit further away from me, and that helped a lot. But still, when you have a little bit tighter lens like that, the lack of quality image stabilization is really noticeable. And so that was my biggest problem. Some of the other issues that I had with it was the image quality. It was okay, but honestly, for a lot of situations when the lighting was decent, my iPhone did at least as well. And so it didn't make a lot of sense for me to keep it around for those reasons. Also, the audio quality, at first it seemed like it was really good, but for whatever reason, the more I used it, the more I ended up kind of adjusting it and editing. And I don't know, it was always a lot of work to get the footage and the sound looking all right. I feel like I did a decent job most of the time with it, but at the same time, it caused a lot of problems with my workflow, which kind of brings me to the other issue with the Sony ZV-1, and that was getting anything off of the camera. I think they may have updated the apps since that camera and maybe updated the connectivity issues with it, but it was very difficult to actually get the images and the video off of that camera. I would have to take out the SD card and use an adapter with my iPad, and that's how I would get it into a form where I could actually use it for editing. Unfortunately, I did have to create a lot of shortcuts to actually make that work because Sony decided to create lots of folders and just kind of bury the video files deep in a maze of folders. And so I kind of got something to work pretty well, but it was always a really inefficient process, and I was never super happy with the results. And eventually I decided just to sell it. I figured I would replace it with a gimbal and just use my phone, which worked for the most part, but there were a lot of things that I just can't do with it, like film while I'm driving, things like that. And that brings me to another purchase which I made for actually my old iPhone. I've had these for a while, but these are basically waterproof pouches, and you can use your phone through them. So you can put your iPhone or whatever phone you have into these pouches. You can use them in the water, underwater. You can attach them to you with these straps. These actually work really well. They're a little bit clunky. Obviously, it does have a kind of negative effect on the sound as well. However, you can use these waterproof pouches for filming in the rain, any situation that's really wet where you might damage your phone. I know the new iPhones claim to be waterproof. A lot of other phone manufacturers claim their phones are waterproof as well. I've heard mixed results about actually using their phones underwater, and I don't really want to risk my expensive phone for that. All right, so that leads me to my latest purchase, which I filmed my entire last video on, and that is this new DJI Action 4. As you can see, I bought this small case for it to protect the lens. That's kind of my biggest concern, because it doesn't come standard with the case. It just comes standard with this frame, which is actually pretty good. It protects the camera from damage a little bit, and there's a lot of really good things about this camera. So first off, I needed a camera that complemented my phone, not necessarily replaced it. One of the things I like about my gimbal is that I can put any phone with it. So as I eventually upgrade my phones, and that always happens every few years, I can increase the quality of my videos without having to replace my entire camera, basically. However, there are some things that that camera just can't do. So one of the reasons why I bought this is because it's waterproof down to 30 meters, so I could potentially take it swimming, but I also just don't have to worry about it if it gets wet. And I film a lot in the rain because I live in the Northwest, so having something that I can use when it's super wet out and know that it's under warranty for being used in the rain, that's a big bonus for me. Another thing is it's very small. It has lots of features that I use regularly. Again, it's just a DJI product and they seem to really know the market well. So not only does it have the screen on the back like this, it also has a screen on the front. So if I do want to use it in selfie mode, for taking selfies outdoors or something, I can do that and actually keep myself in frame, which is a huge plus. It's very difficult to do that with any camera. So having that screen on the front side of the camera is just a huge bonus. The other reasons why I bought this is it does really pretty well in low light. It's not perfect. It does better than my phone. It does probably about as well as a new iPhone. And that's really all I need. I can use it while I'm driving. It's very compact. It actually has voice activation features, and so that's really handy. And probably the biggest benefit is that you can mount this thing anywhere. All the action cams come standard with magnetic clips, so to use them, you just clip it on like that, and it's mounted to something. This is a tripod mount that I have it attached to at the moment, but I have other attachments as well. So for $25, you can get this giant case of attachments, and this allows you to attach action cams to literally anything. So let me take you through some of my options. I'm going to start off by testing out the suction cup mount for my camera. So let's see if it sticks to my windshield. Well, it seems to have worked pretty much perfectly on the first try. Suction cup is very effective. I do need to tighten up some of these screws so it's not quite so loose, but we'll get there. Okay, so that seems to have worked pretty much perfectly. My camera is now mounted to the windshield, and the voice activation also works, so I don't actually even have to use my hands to work the camera. Let's go on a quick drive here. So I have this float, so if I want my action cam to be floating, this is an option. I have this giant bag of clips and mounts. These are mostly just different styles of like buckle mounts. We have like a bicycle handlebar mount, things like that. Just various small mounts. If I really want to get ambitious and make a mounting permanent somewhere, I have all these sticky mounts that I can attach my camera to. I have a wristband mount. I've seen people use this. I think it looks really weird. If you're looking for that kind of video game, first-person shooter type of video, this kind of works, but still, you can strap it to things other than your wrist as well. It's really just a Velcro strap. We have a head mount, so this fits over your head like a helmet. This is a helmet mount, so this straps in through the holes in a helmet, and so you can mount it to the top of the helmet if you're riding a bike or something. So if you're hiking or going backpacking, you can use this clip mount to mount the action cam to whatever. And finally, we have the full-on chest mount. It's pretty cool. And lastly, this particular kit comes with a small tripod. Again, this is probably a little bit cheaper, a little bit lighter version of the other small tripod I have. We have this handle, which is kind of an interesting mount. You can extend this mount and attach it to whatever, I suppose. And finally, we have this kind of U-shaped mount. So it's kind of like an extension mount, basically. So if you want to clip your action cam onto your backpack or something, you can clip it on so it's not just, you know, directly taking a picture of the back of your head. You can actually get a little bit of distance between whatever you clipped it onto and whatever you want to look at. So you can actually buy all these parts individually, and they cost $8 to $10 individually, or you can just buy the entire kit of like 100 pieces for, I think it was $25 is what I paid for it. They all seem to be in the $20 to $30 range for the various kits that are out there. Again, I'll put a link in the description to all of these parts. But that is what I'm currently using for my videos. Some of these things I haven't really tested too much, like a lot of these mounts, and I hope all of this stuff will improve my video quality. So in case you're interested in what I actually use to film, it's a pretty wide variety of stuff. And if you want to check any of it out, I'll put links to all the stuff down in the description below.